It is 4 years since 2 climate change adaptation initiatives, namely Africa Adaptation Program AAP and Least Developed Countries Fund LDCF, were launched in 10 districts in Rwanda with activities to adapt and mitigate climate change as identified in the National Adaptation Program Action (NAP). NAP predictions highlighted some serious effects of climate change in Rwanda reflected in water scarcity, famine, landslides, heavy and erratically timed rains, extreme hot weather conditions, and rigid hot dry air that can potentially burn up things. Activities that were earmarked to mitigate climate change include water rationing and management, establishment of early warning system and rapid response system, increasing productive activities, boosting agriculture productivity, promoting climate resilient seeds, and source for alternative energy. In the high elevations of the Western Province is where LDCF project chose to carry out its activities. Many mountains in these districts were bare, causing soil erosion, landslides, farmers' crops swept away, and lives were normally lost because people didn't know how to adapt to effects to climate change. Climate change causes unpredictable rains and sun and poor productivity of crops unlike in the past. When we first came here, we used to plant a sack of Irish potatoes and harvest 1 ton. Today, you plant 1 sack and harvest about 500 kilograms only. We used to apply manure. Personally, I wouldn't say that it is lack of fertilizers. It is just climate change, not lack of fertilizers. Climate change doesn't mean that the sun changed or the rainfall. It is a change in climate causing low agricultural harvests. LDCF project planned to involve the residents in the activities so that they can derive benefit from owning those activities, as well as generating income to start small-scale projects that would reduce exploitation and dependence on land as a solution to all their needs. Since working with LDCF project, beneficiaries affirm that their lives and the districts have been transformed. Nyabihu district is a humid land. The district's humidity contributes to its soil fertility, which favors cultivation of a variety of crops. Residents in Nyabihu district are loyal to agriculture. However, they are hindered by the mountainous landscapes, which was bare and prone to soil erosion and landslides, which are some of the impacts of climate change. The activities benefit us a lot and the residents in this area to uplift us from poverty. Most of the target activities in Nyabihu district that were aimed to improve the welfare of the beneficiaries were achieved. Some of the activities include terraces to help the residents mitigate irregular heavy downpours that caused soil erosion and washed away crops. Before the terraces were cut, waters would wash away soils, but after getting terraces here, our soils are no longer carried away. They are preserved. We are not worried that heavy rains can erode the soils. Residents in Nyabihu grow mainly Irish potatoes. They have benefited from terraces through reduced cost in clearing farmlands. The change can be seen, especially according to me. People used to use a lot of efforts. They used to dig a piece of land, as they are measured here with about 200,000 Rwandan francs. Compared to today, a piece of land that equals to 1 terrace can be dug for 70,000 Rwandan francs or 50,000 Rwandan francs. For example, a piece of the farm field on which 200 kilograms of seeds could be used. Workers were employed to remove stones. If you made efforts to dig your farm field, but if the owner of the farm field above you didn't dig his, the water will flow down and fill your farm field. All you did will go to waste. You will again start to dig pits to hold water. By doing so, you are destroying crops, while others were washed away and incur a huge loss. Today, a resident sits back and relaxes because no erosion can deposit in their gardens. These residents were assisted in digging terraces in their farm fields. Now many have embraced growing fruit trees, including the yet-to-be-harvested tree tomatoes. I'm expecting to harvest after 12 months. The least I will harvest is 800 kilograms. Other trees were planted on the land surface of 132 hectares, as well as along Nyamukongoro River and Lake Karago. My name is Mberabagabo Elizafan. I'm the president of the anti-soil erosion community at banks of Nyamukongoro River and Lake Karago. We worked on 132 hectares. At first, the residents didn't understand activities, but later we educated them and they understood. In 6 months we have carried out the activities. They have now owned them. The activities are interdependent. The grass they planted on the terraces will help in feeding animals, preventing them from loitering and keeping kraals as manure is generated. Lake Karago was part of the urgent resource that needed preservation and conservation because erosion soil would fill it. But today, the bare mountains have been conserved as they are no longer bare. These houses here were built on the fringes of Lake Karago. They were submerged into water because there was no longer siltation.
Ikiyaga cya Karago amazi yarongeye agarura isura. Isuri yajegamo iragabanuka. Gishwati nayo nuko nguko. Hari ibikorwa rero byakozwe mu by'ukuri byaradufashije cyane mu guhangana n'ibibazo byangirika ry'ibidukikije, cyane cyane byari bishingiye ku masuri. Dushimira ikigo cy'igihugu gishinzwe kubungabunga ibidukikije kuko cyadufashije mu gukemura ibyo bibazo.
Nyiragikokora is an area in Nyabihu district. Here and 5 other sites is where beekeeping is carried out. The activity prevents residents from encroaching on Gishwati forest by cutting its trees, thus causing deforestation. We wanted to conserve Gishwati forest. They will never damage it again because we will be carrying out beekeeping. We will benefit from conserving Gishwati forest and we will sell the honey and get money. Beekeeping will boost productivity of bees as the world grapples with decreasing honey bee colony by 70% of the world's bee population. Poultry carried out by youth relocated from Gishwati forest is another income-generating activity that will help them wean from depending on tilling the land.
Zatugirira akamaro kenshi. Kuko niba dusenye mu Gishwati mu mpamvu zo kurengera ibidukikije. None ngaha batuzaniye ubworozi tuzorera ahantu hatoya kandi muri uko gukorera ahantu hatoya ntabwo bizangiza ibidukikije kandi n'ubuzima buzakomeza, ntabwo mbese ubuzima buzahagarara.
Ku bijanye n'iyi fumbire iva mu nkoko.
Concerning this manure, it is derived from chickens because we collected it after we had already planted the seeds. We hope to sell it and save the rest we would have collected to apply it in the gardens they gave us. The youth also planted mushrooms which don't require to be carried out on a large piece of land, yet very productive.
Twasaruye ibiro 347 tukaba dufite amafaranga 334. Ariko tugitangira twahuye n'imbogamizi twabuze kubona abantu babaga batari babimenya, kubura isoko n'ubumenyi buke wenda kubitera, isoko buno twagiye tubimenya nta kibazo.
Before land conservation activities were introduced in Ngororero district, the district helped the citizens to improve their welfare and boost their incomes. Before this project came, especially during dry seasons, we would be jobless. During that time, some able-bodied people could do casual labor in Kibungo and in neighboring Uganda and elsewhere. During this dry season, I didn't go anywhere. I worked for this project because I had got work near my home. I was delighted. Many trees have been planted in Ngororero district. The floods would carry sediments and deposit it into this river. Trees you see planted here trap the soil, in that all the soil doesn't deposit into the water. Residents who worked in these projects got work. That is why these trees are thriving. When these trees grow, they will add to soil fertility, especially that trees can be mixed with crops. They add nitrogen to the soils. Another thing, residents will get trees supporting creeping beans, and the third vital benefit, they will help us fight soil eroded from the hills. This activity was the most basic in tackling climate change. Sometimes, we would experience dry spells because of desert conditions, and the rains would disappear with no justification. But now, we receive reliable rainfall thanks to all these trees planted. There is also grazing grass. The activity was significant to the residents and the country in general. This is Rubavu district, which was ravaged by heavy rains and poor soil management that led to soil erosion. But a lot has changed since working with the LDCF project. At first, I was skeptical because they were digging ditches and later planted trees. We were concerned, but later we realized it was good because stagnant water was flowing through them. They planted reeds and trees. We feel there is no problem any longer.
On my part, I was happy to see avocado trees at home. It is good. The children will eat them, me and the visitors, because we planted many. We will sell them and buy a sheep.
Mountains in Rutsiro district were degraded because of soil erosion due to deforestation, especially on the natural forest of Gishwati. Residents relocated from the forest and settled in Bitenga village, requested to be supported in their farming activities. Rutsiro has a population of over 50,000 cows. Although they had asked LDCF project to construct them a milk collection center, the district chose to begin with construction of a veterinary pharmacy. It is completed now. Indeed, we would have begun with a milk collection center, but following consultations with our sponsor REMA, we realized we had to begin with construction of a veterinary pharmacy because of the following reasons. To preserve dairy milk cows so that we have healthy cows and increase their productivity. We began with the veterinary pharmacy and get a vet officer and stock it with drugs and be able to offer services to the cows we have in the district, many of which are in Igishwati forest. Then we will think of the milk collection center in the second phase. But the veterinary pharmacy will support the cows we have to boost their productivity so that by the second project we would be having enough milk production. AAP project concluded its activities in pilot districts of Kayonza, Kirehe, Gatsibo, Nyamagabe, Bugesera and Rulindo. It however continued an activity which is now winding up. It aimed to support innovative technologies in agriculture. Normally, crop irrigation is done by equipment which use fuel. However, this one uses solar power installed in partnership with Rwanda Environment Management Authority and Rwanda Agriculture Board. This advanced irrigation system is the first time it has been used in Rwanda. While coming up with the project, we began at the district, which referred us to a place called Ndego, and we were informed about the challenges of the area, including erratic rainfall, which we knew about. But the most serious setback, we were told, was that during absence of rains, residents here don't get food and decide to drift from their homes. We thought of something that would help address the issue to keep residents in their areas, because we were told that during a good season, the farmers can harvest enough to supply the whole district. It is against this backdrop that we thought, since they have water owing to the presence of many lakes in the district, we devised a project to pump up water from those lakes using pumping machines that use solar energy, because the panels can be used for as long as 20 years without doing any maintenance, no electricity, no fuel to emit pollutants in the atmosphere, which causes climate change. We realized we can do a prototype project to pump up water from lakes to irrigate crops for a long period of time that the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources, as well as Rwanda Agricultural Board, can develop into a bigger one to enable farmers in this sector to feed other sectors, because the soils here are very productive. This is indeed an exemplary activity. Some farmers here affirm that it's been very beneficial because they plant even during unusual seasons in this district that experiences dry spells all year round, and when it rains, the downpour destroys crops.
During
the dry season, people wouldn't allow us to plant. Some even think that we don't do agriculture because the soils are dry. But ever since they brought us water, we were able to grow maize, beans, and we have realized bumper harvest. Personally, I observed a bean I had planted which produced 100 green beans. I am not lying, even other residents know about it. It was my first time to plant tomatoes. This is my first ever harvest. I realized that if I got regular and timely supply of water, I can plant tomatoes and get plentiful of harvest. So what was required of me? There were 2 gardens, each measuring 30 by 100 square meters. I immediately planted tomatoes and they gave me water on time. Irrigated maize are healthy compared to those that rely on rainfall. There is a difference. The water is useful to us. We are 20 farmers on this field irrigating crops, but if it's possible, you can add us more. Farmers come here on a study tour to see how we use this water. Look at these tomatoes, how they are thriving. Although we experienced rainfall recently, but irrigation water has contributed a lot. I haven't yielded the fruits yet, but when I see them, it builds my hope that tomorrow I will make it productive.
The benefits of the activities have not trickled down to all residents. In areas where it is yet to be carried out, the leaders affirm that residents have ceased abandoning their homes because of famine. There is one over there, and another one there, and a third one. About 15 houses are empty. The program to promote timely and reliable weather forecast updates with the help of weather stations spread across the country facilitates farmers to work effectively and efficiently and empowers them to prevent disasters. What we wish to see is accurate weather forecast so that the residents receive reliable information to facilitate them to carry out profitable agriculture activities and to increase productivity so that there are no losses caused by poor weather. This will help the country if the productivity is good. The country develops and the residents in general. It is an understandable issue concerning disaster. There has to be preparedness. The project aimed to reduce vulnerability to climate change. That is to say, the information we will provide will facilitate farmers to be better prepared. If the heavy rains are destructive to the agriculture activities or infrastructure, how better can we respond to them in case of such occurrences? We trained them in partnership with the Ministry of Disaster Management and Refugee Affairs for them to know when information reaches them, how do they prepare? How long does it take to execute measures in light of disasters?
mu gihe ibyo biza byagaragaye.
Grassroots leaders who were trained affirmed that they are now better placed to protect the people they lead from disasters upon receiving information on weather forecast. In our district, Rutsiro, we tell them more about lightning. They trained us on preventing disasters such as heavy rains and lightning. They told us about umbrellas, that we should ask residents to fold their umbrellas during lightning and when the rains are due. Another thing that they taught us in preventing lightning is mobile phones. We can switch off our mobile phones when lightning occurs. They said for lightning to strike a person, they may have had a role in it. The electric cables, where you touch them when it's lightning, you can even die. They said we will be receiving the information via short messages. They told us to convene urgent meetings for people living in high disaster risk zones and relocate them to a better landscape. They now understand the significance of the weather forecast updates to their agriculture activities. It helps us to know the farming season. We get to know that in such and such months we have much rains and plant crops on mountains, or when the rains are reducing, so we can grow the crops in lowland areas where our crops cannot be destroyed. LDCF and AAP projects supported Rwanda in building the capacity of Rwandans to build resilience aimed at mitigating and adapting to effects of climate change without affecting lives. In a bid to review past achievements, assessment was low level of vulnerability to disaster and climate change reduced in LDCF Palo districts of Ngororero, Rubavu, Rutsiro and Nyabihu. In the first stage, assessment was made on the exposure. The exposure measures how residents are affected by changes in temperature, rainfall, drought episodes, as well as flooding. In the second stage, the assessment focused on the sensitivity. Sensitivity is related to the impact of the soil erosion and landslides, soil fertility, change in natural environment, dependency level, irrigation, and livelihood sources. In the third stage, the assessment evaluates how information on climate change facilitates people to deal with its effects. All this indicated that vulnerability to climate change decreased by 37%.
twakoze uko dushoboye kugira ngo dufashe abanyarwanda mu rwego rwo guhangana.
We did everything possible to help Rwandans in mitigating and adapting to climate change. As you have seen, various activities were carried out in districts. We trained, we gave out climate change measuring equipment. There are tangible activities we carried out in the districts. I hope you see them. Since the unveiling of the project in 2011 to date, it is evident that we have reduced the vulnerability to climate change up to at least 40%, showing that if we continue at this pace, Rwandans will mitigate and adapt to climate change.
n'imihindagurikire y'ibihe ariko bashobora guhangana nayo.
LDCF and AAP activities yielded commendable progress in building the resilience of Rwandans towards climate change. The activities left behind will continue to help citizens to build their families and the country in general. It also increased the experience of development partners, which they will use to help other countries to come up with projects in building a climate change resilient community.